Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of NEC On The Run. Today we're talking men's basketball with Ron Ratner. Ron, there's only 2 weeks left in the regular season. Let's take a look at where we stand.
Let's look first at the regular season title picture. Right now, it's all Mount St. Mary's. They're in the driver's seat with a 3-game lead, just 4 games to play. They've already clinched a home game in the NEC tournament. Now they're just looking to put the final nail in the coffin on their challengers and get that #1 seed and home court advantage throughout the playoffs. You want to know why the Mount is so tough? Let's take a look at their game Saturday against St. Francis U. Another NEC contender, the Red Flash, and it was a great game. It was tied 55 apiece in the second half, and then the Mount just broke the game wide open. A 24-0 run. The Mount racked up 16 straight stops on defense. Then on offense, they hit 6 consecutive three-pointers. That gave them the first 18 points of the run, and they were off to the races. Great game for Elijah Long here. 25 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. The Mount continues to roll at 12-2 in the NEC. Now let's talk about NEC tournament qualification. Another race going on. 6 are in, 2 spots are still available. Let's see who punched their ticket. We already knew Mount did last week. They were joined by FDU, and then all in one day, LIU, Sacred Heart, St. Francis U, and Wagner punched their ticket. 6 in. Now let's talk about the final 2 playoff spots. Robert Morris and Bryant, either or both, could clinch berths in the tournament this week. Central Connecticut and St. Francis Brooklyn are still alive, but they have a lot of work to do. RMU and Bryant, 3-game edge in the standings over Central, 4 over St. Francis Brooklyn. It's going to take a lot to get them into the playoffs. We'll see over the next 2 weeks. Here's the real race. Who's going to finish in the top 4? Those 4 teams all get to host a quarterfinal game in the NEC tournament. We have 7 teams vying for the 3 available spots to join the Mount. Why is it all important? Well, if you look at the history of the NEC tournament, teams that host in the quarterfinals have posted a 38-10 record since the NEC switched to a campus site format back in 2005. And if you finish in the top 3, those teams are 33-3 in the quarterfinals. Now, Kyle, while we're talking about how important it is to get home court advantage in the playoffs, I have a stat that maybe it's not as important this year. Let's go to Did You Know?
All right, we're going to go to the Did You Know early on in the show.
Kyle, did you know that home teams have won under 53% of the games this year in conference play? Only 37-33 in 7 weeks. Not much of an advantage there. So the thought is, while it's important to get a home seed, due to the parity in the NEC this year, this could be the season where we could see some upsets being sprung. Quarters, semifinals, finals, you never know when. We've never seen an 8 seed beat a 1 seed. Could this be the year?
Maybe, Ron. It's a good stat to have. Thanks for the Did You Know. Now let's move back to where we stand. Do you have anything left for me?
All right, I have a few shout outs now. First, Junior Robinson. Junior scored his 1,000th career point last Thursday in Mount's win over Robert Morris. He's the 211th player in the league's 36-year history to reach the milestone. Great job by Junior Robinson. Next up, look for Jerome Frink, possibly to get it this week. He needs just 30 more points to get there. Speaking of Jerome Frink, I want to shout out to LIU's Big 2 seniors. LIU started 6-1 in conference play this year. They hit a bit of a road bump after that, losing 4 out of 5. But last week they came back in a big way. Jerome Frink and Iverson Fleming led the way. Frink was the NEC Player of the Week, averaged 21 points and 8 rebounds a game, while Fleming, also a senior, contributed 18.5 points a game and 3.5 assists a game. In LIU's 88-85 overtime win at Bryant, both of them came up big when it counted for the Blackbirds. Frink dropped a career-high 30 points. He hit 5 out of 7 from outside the arc, which for one of the league's premier big men, it's really an amazing stat. He hit 2 big back-to-back triples after it looked like Bryant was going to start to pull ahead. Then it was Fleming's turn. Fleming scored LIU's last 7 points of regulation. Then in overtime, he buried the game-winning three-pointer with 14 seconds on the clock, finished with 24 points and 5 assists. Great job by Jerome Frink, Iverson Fleming. They have LIU in a second-place tie in the NEC standings with FDU at 9-5. One more quick shout-out, Kyle. Kayvon Stewart on Robert Morris. Other than Quincy McKnight maybe, there's no one better at getting to the line in the NEC. This conventional three-point play with 52 seconds to go was the key moment in RMU's big win over Wagner on Saturday.
All right, Ron, well, we'll keep an eye on the playoff races as everything develops. Now let's shift gears. I think you're running out of guys to choose for this segment. Let's go to Under the Radar.
I got one more. I don't know if I have one next week. I have one this week. Let's talk about Sean Hohen of Sacred Heart University. Sacred Heart's been red hot. They've won 4 straight. They're now at 500 in league play, and they have their sights set on a home playoff game. But Hohen has been fantastic in league play, but especially the last couple weeks. He can really shoot the ball. He's shooting 46% from three-point range against conference opponents. That's second in the NEC. Over the last 5 games, 15 out of 27 from outside the arc. Great stuff. He had 5 out of 6 last week in Sacred Heart's win over Central Connecticut. He also had a 5 for 6 night a couple weeks ago against the Mount. With Cha-Cha Tucker and Quincy McKnight driving the lane and kicking it out, Hohen's been getting some great looks. He's been knocking them down, and it's really helped the Pioneers as they make their stretch run. And if you remember, Kyle, back in November, Hohen nearly single-handedly beat Hofstra. At the end of that game, he hit 2 straight threes, then had a steal and a couple free throws in less than a minute right down the stretch of that game. They beat Hofstra. Hohen's a big player for them as we move on.
All right, folks, you heard Ron. Sean Hohen from Sacred Heart is his Under the Radar Player of the Week. Keep an eye on him. Now, Ron, let's move to the Twitter timeout.
Kyle, we're going to go back to the well once again. Ryan Peters at Pioneer_Pride, NEC blogger extraordinaire. This week, I love this tweet. Caleb Bishop reminds me of the Mount's Chris Ray in that he has the size and athleticism to disrupt near the rim. Both are incredible talents. Ryan hit it right on the money with that. They do remind me of each other with their high-flying dunks and their length and their athleticism. Did you see, Kyle, did you see Caleb Bishop's dunk against Central Connecticut last week in our ESPN 3 game? Wow. Take those and take his thunderous putback dunks a couple weeks ago against St. Francis Brooklyn, and you have 2 talents in the league in Bishop and Ray, and maybe let's throw in Josh Nebo while we're at it in St. Francis as 3 of the NEC's top high flyers.
All right, Ron, well, Ryan Peters is always good for a tweet. It's nice to see that he's taking a look at all the dunk masters of the NEC. Now let's move on to probably my least favorite segment. It's time to guess who said it.
Kyle Turner, you're about to go 2-7 on the year, your worst year. Here we go, give it a shot. Who said it, Kyle? We're very pleased with where we're at now. Our defense has gotten a lot better. Some of it is personnel, some of it is focus. It's still not where we want it to be, but we're playing good stretches. It was either start defending better or get used to losing. And they, the players, didn't like that option. Kyle, who said it?
Ron, I'm going to go with Tim O'Shea.
You are incorrect. Once again, Kyle, sorry. You should have got a clue from what we were just talking about. That was Anthony Latina, head coach of the Sacred Heart Pioneers. They've won 4 in a row. Their defense has been much better the last 4 games, and certainly that gives Anthony Latina some hope as they make their drive towards, as we said, a playoff home game for the Pioneers.
All right, Ron, well, I should have guessed that it had something to do with Sacred Heart because all of the segments have turned up Sacred Heart. But now let's move on to NEC on TV. What do we got on tap this week?
Kyle, it's Battle of Brooklyn week. We're going to start out NEC TV week with that one on Wednesday. A national game on CBS Sports Network at 6 p.m. I've been going to these for the better part of 20 years. There have been so many memorable games. Probably the most memorable one in my mind was back in 2011 when LIU's CJ Garner went coast to coast, hit a runner at the buzzer. Crazy celebration in the Pope Center. LIU wins 82-80. Doesn't matter what the records of these 2 teams are. One can be up, one can be down. When they play, you know you're going to get a good one. Then on Thursday evening, another good one, a clash of NEC contenders. First place Mount St. Mary's visits 4th place Wagner. 7 p.m. game on ESPN 3. We'll get our second look at LIU Brooklyn on Saturday. The Blackbirds host Sacred Heart. Noon tip-off on MSG, Fox College Sports, and Cox in Connecticut and Rhode Island. 3 games this week for all our fans on NEC TV.
All right, fans, so there you go. 3 games on TV this week. Don't forget, you can catch all other league games live on NECFrontRow.com. For NECFrontRow.com and Ron Ratner, I'm Kyle Turner. This has been NEC On The Run talking men's basketball. We'll be back next week.